The Life Sciences DNA podcast is sponsored by Agilesium Labs, a collaborative space where Agilesium works with its clients to co-develop and incubate POCs, products, and solutions. To learn how Agilesium Labs can use the power of its generative AI for life sciences analytics, visit them at labs.agilesium.com. Sri, we've got Vinod Das on the show today. Who is Vinod?
Danny, Vinod is an expert on AI and data science with over 20 years of experience in the pharma R&D space. He's currently associate director at Bayer Pharmaceuticals, where he's responsible for the enablement of AI in their group. He's keen on driving the integration of generative AI and large language models to accelerate drug discovery and clinical development. I'm really excited to have him on the show.
And what are you hoping to hear from Vinod today?
Vinod is a very practical and pragmatic implementer of AI. And so what I'm really looking forward to learning is how he applied that framework on selecting the right Gen AI use cases, and then how he built the capability within his organization to implement them. And finally, how he's gone about evaluating its impact in his organization.
Before we begin, I want to remind our audience they can stay up on the latest episodes of Life Sciences DNA by hitting the subscribe button. If you enjoy this content, be sure to hit the like button and let us know your thoughts in the comments section. With that, let's welcome Vinod to the show.
Vinod, welcome to my podcast. It's really exciting. Today, I want to explore some of the AI use cases you've used in your organization. It would be wonderful for you to describe the before and after. What was the situation before AI was implemented? And then what was the journey for AI? And then what was the situation after? Thank you so much, Vinod. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Srivatsan, for having me here. And it's a splendid opportunity for me as well to see and share the AI journey, to reflect on what we have done, right? From the ChatGPT moment in 2022 to where we are right now. So we went across the short-term, mid-term, long-term strategy. And in short-term, we were pivoting around, what is the best fit for us? For example, protocol authoring. We work with business functions to see, we have a lot of protocols which get amended. So amendment cost is in millions. So why not we reflect and see the tangible outcome of it, right? So we strategized that, and we partnered with externals to make sure that we are effective and we are accelerating the deployments. So that is super helpful. And we had it in sprints. Say sprint 1 runs for 4 weeks, like sprint 2 is 6 weeks, so that we see some tangible outcomes. So that's where we were able to show and tell the user personas, user stories, and reflect on what is really required for a user journey to have a proper protocol draft prepared.
Vinod, that was excellent. Tell me a little bit about the outcomes. What was the outcome measures before, and then what was the outcome measures after you implemented? You talked about measuring key outcomes. So why didn't you touch upon what were those outcomes and how did you measure it?
Yeah, that's a good question, and also intriguing as well, because when you really interviewed the medical writers or clinical study managers, right, you get some persona. Oh, this can be tweaked, or this section can be tweaked, right? And when you really reflect it on the draft, right, the LLMs hallucinate. So how much human intervention is required, right? So we gauged it in that perspective. And when you really see the tangible outcomes perspective, it reduced the productivity aspect by around 25%. We cannot minusculely say, it reflected 90%. No, not like that. 25 to 30 was the acceleration which it gave.
No, that's a good narrative, saying that, hey, first bring the users on board, and they are giving you qualitative and quantitative measures on how good the output is. And the second you said is that as the users started to give feedback, it was helping them be productive, but in that 25 to 30% range. Did you roll it out to a lot of people, or was this a pilot for a few medical writers? What was your strategy? Did you do a pilot with start small and then scale?
When we started, right, we started off as a proof of concept, then we moved to proof of value, then we deployed it across the work streams. That is the global application, which is available for production use. So it can be utilized across buyer for utilizing it and seeing the value.
So tell me a little bit more of the nuance and mechanics of that. Was in that proof of concept, did it take 4 weeks, 12 weeks, 16 weeks? What was the time frame? And then what kind of tools did you use? Did you use, out of the box LLMs, or did you have to use others? Walk me through the journey of how did you build this?
The build phase is very exciting because we had a agile work stream. So we had end to end within 6 months, right? What is the right from say uh, developing the back end and the front end, where users can invoke a prompt and get some tangible output, right? And later on, always there is an incremental progression on the UX based on the feedback, where we had prompt templates developed. So that's how we went in iterations, right? And when you see the usage, yes, they do have good metrics on usage side of things. Only thing is it is constrained to specific, say, Transcelerate template, for example, right? So that is used across the board in different organizations. So we have used certain backdrop templates to understand the protocol nature, right, and reflect on it. So when you say model, we used OpenAI's GPT to start with, because that is more intuitive in 2023 and more say user reflective.
You brought up some very good points, Vinod. One was this whole notion of prompt library, all of that. It seems to be that prompting is the new way. Tell me about how, we're all from the IT background, we have coding standards and others. How are you doing that with prompts and that notion of prompt and prompt libraries?
That is also very important and very useful, because the business context or the ground truth is derived out of it, right? For the model to learn. Say, for example, Srivatsan is talking to Vinod Das because Vinod has some personality and you're putting some tailoring questions out of it. So similarly for the model also the same reflects out of it, right? So we were putting across, okay, for this protocol authoring, what is the informed consent information, or what is the primary endpoint, what is the secondary endpoint. So we were able to do like one shot prompting. There is a chain of thought prompting, there is atom prompting. Now there is a chain of draft promptings. So there is it's accelerating. The prompting is important, but business context also lies closely with the prompting aspect. So we married everything to have, okay, these are the golden prompts which can be readily used by the medical writers for generating a draft.
It was excellent the way you talked about how you created that prompt culture with this both the prompt techniques of zero shot, single shot, multi shot, but also how you trained them in the business context. Tell me how did you approach it? Were there standard courses, standard training material? How did you build that capability within the organization?
So, Sri, that is also a very important question for other organizations also to piggyback or to use these learnings, right? So, we had or it's not me, right? The team, there is a learning and development team who build this prompt journey or prompting techniques exercise, which starts from square one, the basic level of prompting to advanced prompting. And we internally in Bar can get certified. It's through internal platform called MyGen Assist. So that team worked rigorously to build this curriculum. So this helps for AI literacy perspective as well as understanding what each model does. For example, we have Gemini, we have GPT, GPTs, and we have Anthropic suite. So we have multiple variants, right? So each model, how they behavioral pattern of it, etc., was tailored for us in the prompting.
Yeah. Vinod, that's an interesting point you're bringing in of each of these different models. Do you have a standard prompt across each of these models, or do you do differently? And have you used the same prompt to different models, and are they giving you similar results or different results?
Yeah, that is also a very important question, because when you see the data set behind the scene is different in which the models are trained on, right? Say, for example, GPT-4o versus GPT-4o Vision versus, say, Anthropic 3. Claude 3.7, right? So each data set is different. So the underlying, say, captions, or let's say the syntax of the prompt will be the same. Only thing is, we tweak it based on the model behavior. Say I put say I want to generate the primary endpoint for this particular study, right? For example, I invoke that, and the model output is a little bit sketchy, or it doesn't give me a proper output. So in that case, we tweak it to say, okay, can you be an expert in clinical protocol authoring and do this task? So we do the uh, star format, STAR, situation, task, right, action, and the result out of it. So we follow the star format, so it's more reflective from a model side of things.
Vinod, that you bring up a very good point, because most people use the STAR framework for interviewing and others, where you describe the situation, the task, activities, and results. You're bringing an interesting twist that that format could be a good scaffolding to build good prompts, because basically you're telling the prompt, this is the business context, which is the situation, these are the tasks you have to perform, these are different activities which you have to do, and then these are the results you need to get. And you can then bring in your zero shot, one shot learning in each of those components. I think that's a very wonderful key takeaway on how you build your prompt and prompt capabilities. Tell me a little bit on this L&D. Was that an internal course, or as you talk to other people, there are external prompt courses which you would recommend or you've seen, where people can upskill themselves in this particular new technique?
Yeah, so this is learning is an internal system where our MyGenesis team has developed, and they gave it to us with a certification behind the scene once we complete all the journey. So it's co-created by constant feedback within the employee, I would say, cohorts, right? So that is one. And when you want to see in the marketplace, like when I started, I went to Udemy. Udemy has a very good course structure on prompting, right? And the prompting techniques, and what sort of prompting is good prompting, right? For a model. So those are all small tips and tricks. And apart from that, I would strongly recommend you to be model, like I would say, intuitive. Say, for example, each model behaves on its own. So have some template structure, document it, and have it as your cheat sheet, so you can immediately do some tweaks and tricks to suit the model needs.
And Vinod, I know we're exploring prompting because that was a very critical part of your protocol authoring journey. How did you ensure version control of these different prompts? Was that a little bit of, are you doing it in Word? Did you have a kind of a platform to do this?
That's where the ground truth prompts, right, which is behind the scene, which cultivates the model capabilities, right? So each medical uh, writers or study managers will can put their prompt also. They can have their prompt. Similarly, with the MS Copilot, for example, if you have your prompt, you can save your prompt, right, and invoke it on need basis. So that doesn't impact the back end of the model, but you are interacting with the model for the output. So From a versioning perspective, we have the ground truth prompts, which sits behind. And on the front end, there is a user model interaction, which is basically which sits in the front. And you can store those golden prompts, I would call it as.
That's excellent. I think exploring your prompt journey, which is so important, was wonderful. Vinod, I know you've talked a lot in the marketplace about agentic architecture and your implementation of agentic architecture within your organization. Walk us through, how do you start thinking about an agentic architecture platform or a set of use cases for clinical development? And just walk me through your thinking.
Yeah, you're pricking my brain now because agentic architecture is evolving. You recently heard about Model Context Protocol, right, which is the USB for LLMs. So there is always an acceleration in the agentic side of things. So and the LLM architecture, when you think about it, right, always revolves around the data and how normalized is your data, right? And the cognitive aspect of your data, say my knowledge extraction and knowledge retrieval, how can I uh, blend those both, right? Okay, you can uh, extract the data and keep it, but when you want to retrieve it, how many tokens are consumed, what is the cost like which is vibed on the consumer side as well as from the model provider side, right? So all that factors from when you do the architecture design, and also this reflects on also the scalability and reusability components, right? From architecture side of things. So there's a cognition layer, there is a data layer, and there is a I would say a scalable reusable layer. So everything revolves around some reward function to the model. Hey, you did a good job, take this reward, right? So model understands more. Oh, these guys are praising me, why not I do more, right? That's where you do the fine tuning, right? So that the model has kudu movements within itself. It's like a human, it also reflects what you do.
Yeah. So, Vinod, as you're tasked to do multiple different use cases, how do you evaluate what is the right use case for generative AI? Do you have a framework? And if you do, how do you apply that framework to select the best use cases?
This is more reflecting on okay, the tool selection side of things, right? So you can observe the 4 quadrant approach, which means okay, my left quadrant is more into problem urgency. Okay, uh, what is the real core narrative for my problem, and what is the market situation for the problem, and how can I value it, right? That is where the problem urgency is. And also that also has the ideation, whether it's a unique one, or can I buy versus build aspect also comes into play a little bit. And there is next thing is on the solution efficacy, or like if I give the solution, how does the user community react, whether it is segmented to certain population, right? So solution efficacy also plays a vital part. And the below quadrant is more into, okay, I have my solution idea and I want to implement it. What is my implementation complexity? Whether it is a it's a easy low hanging fruit where you can just turn on the button and it fires up, or it has a complexity of additional external plugins or external libraries which you need to acquire or procure or configure and then build it on top of it, or your data is super siloed that you need to understand the business logic more, right? There's a lot of implementation complexity along with it. And finally, the most important, the cash cow, which always say it's a maintenance burden, right? Okay, what is my overhead to it once I implement it, right? And I want to scale it. Okay, whether there is a regulatory aspect when I deploy it in, say, for example, China or Asia countries, or is there a policy or regulation which does not allow me to implement it? Right. So there's a lot of maintenance burden to it. So these are the 4 pillars of 4 quadrants, I would say.
And those are very, very, very practical and pragmatic quadrants, right? You're looking at the business problem, the solutioning. You're looking at the implementability complexity of the platform, or in the maintenance complexity of the platform. So, if you put this score for your protocol authoring, walk me through each of the quadrants and how did you evaluate each of them? Where did that fit in? How did you select this as a very good key target?
When I was evaluating this, right? So the protocol amendment was reflecting around the score of 0.72. So I need to a little bit reflect on protocol authoring also. I need to marry both so that the score is more like, for example, it crossed one more than one, so one scale. So what that means is, right, we there is a small rubric guide which will say, okay, if you go with this approach, your return on investment will be good enough for consumption, right? So yeah, that's where each quadrant was evaluated, and there is a rubric which plays behind the scene.
No, I think it's a very fair business problem. We all know that protocol authoring done right, the digital protocol is the holy grail for what is being done. And medical writers and medical authors take a lot of time, and it's also a change management effort. Before I go into the change management effect, which is a big one, I want to talk to you about that. I want to go into the two parts, the implementation complexity. So, walk me through how the implementation complexity was for this particular platform, and also talk about maintainability because you're maintaining it as you scale number of users and stuff. Give me a little bit of a parameter on what you had said financial cost of these implementability and maintainability. Just give us some ballpark on how both the implementation complexity and the maintenance complexity were evaluated.
When you really see the numbers, right, it went to 500,000 when we started. Then the maintenance burden another 300, close to 300K, right? So and these are all early times, right? 2023. So when you see as we develop the new functionality, there were changes in the marketplace. So for example, in structure.io or for parsing the content, right? For example, it has tables, list, and figures. So during that time, it was not able to understand the tables, list, and figures in a good way. So there is an implementation complexity, right? So we will go with only text embedding models. So those are all some say certain areas where we need to adjust and see, okay, the market is evolving, and but we have to definitely go and progress on it, right? So this is the implementation complexity side of things. And when you see the maintenance burden right now, right, it's more into the advancements. We didn't have the agentic framework, right, as you rightly mentioned, on the architecture. So now we need to do the reverse engineering or re-engineering to a little bit change a lot of things so that it suits the agentic frameworks. For example, the orchestrator, which can understand the persona of a study manager or a medical writer. Then it runs to supervisors, and after it initially drafts it, then whether the study design and my plan is optimized, yes, then the human in the loop checks it and gives it to the next layer. So those things are not there, right? So this is where the maintenance burden is, right? We need to go with the market.
Yeah. So you're bringing up very fair points, especially the human in the loop. So I want to go back to that previous question. In any of these AI projects, there's change management involved because people are set in using it in one way, and now they have to use it in a different way. Talk to me about that change management process. What was it before, and how did you make people get comfortable to this new way of doing it, and then get them to the solution to adopt and use the solution?
Yeah, so change management is culture oriented, right? I want to use it, right? And I want to see what's next for me when I use it, or whether it is going to affect my job, right, etc. There's a lot of factors to it, and also the mindset of it, right? So, like there is a before aspect. Okay, before this particular protocol authoring was there. Okay, there was a lot of manual work between different members or different colleagues, right? And after this, it's more into, okay, the technology is automating it. Can I have a shared say draft prepared, right? And then collaboratively work for the outcomes. So it was in that angle. And when you see the adoption is there. Only thing is the training which is required. So they prepared some quick reference guides with the help of the developers. So we understood easily what areas to click on and how to generate it, and what are the prompt library which can be already used, and what you guys can already create, right? So we had a quick reference guides, QRGs, to show and tell, and we had many live sessions to educate the clinical clinicians. Let me put it that way.
No, that's very good points you're bringing in. So first is the before, but and after. One is training, show and tell, giving them assistance in terms of these prompt libraries, and really enabling them to do the job in a much more efficient way, but also giving them empowerment so that they can tweak and do it by themselves. I think you hit upon a very good part where you're not being prescriptive, but you're giving them a good start, which then they can continue to improve and scale and share. So, Vinod, I know that protocol authoring is one of many such very innovative projects you're doing. Is there another one you want to showcase which talks about the journey of before and after?
Yeah, probably I'll bring one interesting topic on secret data or sensitive data, right? Majority of the pharma companies are trying to achieve success factor or around it, right? So probably that is one thing which I thought, okay, let me bring it up. We haven't achieved the full end goal, but we are marching towards it. So probably that is something which I can discuss with you further.
Yeah. Why didn't you describe what that is? What is the business case using your four quadrants? What was the business? What was kind of what you were going through? Maybe that's a very good journey for you to share with us.
The problem urgency is we have millions of documents, right? It is structured, semi-structured, unstructured, right? So this is sitting in a secret repository and sensitive, and its proprietary nature, right? So you are tasked with querying results. Say, for example, sorbitol, right, or the liquid alcohol, right? And you get around 200 plus documents when you query it, right? Sorbitol, say, give me the sorbitol solubility for 1.5 percentage or something like that. So it will give around 200 plus. So this is the problem which we had, right? The scientists have to go one by one and see what the 1.5 percentages, right? So this is the problem, right? And the urgency is this consumes lot of time and effort to identify that particular information, right? So it's knowledge extraction use case, right? So how we tackled this is basically internally we can do certain things, but we need to collaborate. So we worked with external partners to see uh, how much they're equipped or experienced in this area, and what is the cost benefit aspects to it, and what is the technical depth to it, because that is also very much important for us to make sure that the relevancy is there, right? So we did all this, and that is the first part to it. Do you have any follow up? I'll
No, I think it's a good start that you have millions of documents and you're trying to find almost like a needle in a haystack, and you're getting a over volume, and search is actually just looking at keyword pair and giving outputs of everything, and there's no context to it. There is nothing, and therefore very expensive resource time is spent in trying to go through that. So it's a very fair business problem which is there across the board. So now tell me, interestingly, how did you go about solving it?
Yeah, so this is the catch, right? For 2.5 years, I've been struggling to get this moving because there is a legal aspect, there is a patent aspect, right? And proprietary aspect. So you need to do the security assessment both from internal and from an external provider, whoever you're going to nominate for, right? So this security assessment goes with around 100 plus questions, right? It depends on the organization, right? The security will be based on what sort of data nature it is, what sort of information will be shared, what sort of key parameters are there within the document, and where is it residing. So there's lots and lots of questions which will go with the legal. So that will be that the vetting process took around 6 to 9 months, right? So once you clear that, next you need to understand, okay, what is the best fit team, as I mentioned, right? Okay, this team who is knowledgeable with security, with data science knowledge, with the deep learning knowledge, etc., etc. So you need to get through that resource aspect, right? Then you should the internal articulation. Okay, whether my testers who are contributing to this data are available for giving the ground truth prompts for them, for the implementers to succeed, right? So it's a multifaceted approach which is right now running, right? So uh, yeah, we are moving in a right path, I hope so. And yeah, this is where we stand.
And what would be the ROI that you're going to go from these 200 documents to very specific outputs? Is it, are you looking at efforts saved in each of those speeder queries? What is, because you're a very big person on business impact management. So what is that business impact you're trying to drive?
I initially started with a problem or a problem statement, right? Around 200 plus documents retrieval is there. So if we can reduce that to say five, right? After implementing this, then it's itself a great win for us, because from 250 to five documents, we're reducing a huge effort, right? So we are incrementally looking for that, and we are progressing towards it.
And as you're building this stuff out, this is your classic where you're assessing security, legal, proprietary, all of those things. But is that a magic model you're using, or is it just using once you've done that, you're using your own proprietary ChatGPT or OpenAI models? Are you looking at small LLMs where you're building your own model? Walk me through, how did you make a build versus? I like you have a framework, right? Build versus buy. So
Yes.
how are you evaluating a build versus buy in this situation?
This is small questions to the tool selection framework also, right? So in this particular situation, right, we had the internal or development build which contributed to the success, right? And when you consider, okay, I'm building it, what are the changes which is required when you build the model? For example, we have a text embedding, right? And other models is contributing to that, right? For example, Claude Sonnet, Claude like we can 3.7, right? 3.7 is not there in EU. It's Claude 3.5 is the limitation which we have in European Union. So we are limited to one level behind, right? So understanding model is also important. So we had a combination of model to suit our use case needs, but we didn't have the biological model yet. That is one thing which is not available in the cloud provider hosting. So we were nullified by uh, the prompting aspect. We need to take a diversion towards additional prompting.
That's a good point, and maybe we can just explore that in the last part of our session, which is, um, the whole thing around maker, shaper, taker. You just made that very good stuff. You didn't have a large bio LLM, which is for you to build. So you shaped and took it with prompting. So walk me through, how do you is your thinking you're going to be doing more of making new LLMs, Are you going to take these things or and shape them with more prompting, more RAG? Give me how do you approach that journey of maker, shaper, taker?
When you strategically think, right, the more you shape your data, it will be more effective. For example, AlphaFold 3, right? So we internally assessed it at on the beta side of things, and it didn't hold good for our data, right? So in that, if you think in that angle, internal orchestration or internal small language model will be more effective because we have the knowledge base. Why not we build a proprietary model with our data, right? That is more powerful because we have the expertise which is required for building that, right? It can be a small, like similar to Pi 3 or Pi 4. It's a small language model. So that is more powerful. When you think on uh, taker, right? We can take it, say, for example, if it is really effective. For example, text Gemma. It has more than 22 tasks in which it is specialized on. So we can observe it. But when we really use our data and see the algorithmic aspect, that's where the challenges are. Okay, because the predictability and the outcome, right, should be reflecting on what we need in our therapeutics area. So there are a lot of complexities in the maker taker shaper. It's a fine grained combination of how you use your strategies to uh, to utilize the marketplace as well as observe your efficiencies.
Oh, fantastic, Vinod. I think, I took a lot from this session around your framework for evaluating the right use cases. I love the four quadrant framework. You also gave us a lot of thought around prompt and how you build prompt capability within an organization, both through training as well as prompt modeling. And then as you start evolve your agentic AI journey, you've talked a little bit about how that journey will influence it. So, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it, and really excited to have had you on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Srivatsan, for having me here, and sincerely appreciate, and I wish you a great rest of the day.
Sri, this was a very nuts and bolts discussion. What did you think?
I think Vinod gave us a very practical thought on how you build these different projects together. I mean, his whole framework on how he created the prompt infrastructure, the training of the team around prompts, the way in which the prompts became reusable were all key takeaways as people start to build Gen AI projects within their organization.
The first use case he talked about was the case of protocol authoring, and you asked about tangible outcomes, and he talked about improvements of 25 to 30%. I wonder what expectations life science executives may have who may not be that familiar with AI and look at it as some kind of a magic box. Are these the types of results someone would expect?
I think it depends on the context of use. Certain context of uses can actually give you 100, 200%, if not more, productivity improvements. In this particular case, it's a very complicated change management program. Protocol authoring has usually been the holy grail of clinical development. Many people have started to enforce templates, and he said he used the Transcelerate template, which is a very useful template for what a protocol and protocol authoring should be. But with that said, there's creativity and flexibility depending on the protocol author. And he's also provided an infrastructure where you could be giving them the inputs, but also giving them the flexibility to change them. I think that's a very right way from a change management perspective. But I think there are certain AI use cases where you can get even much more bigger productivity improvements.
You also asked about training. I think some people may think adding AI is just a matter of a plug and play addition, but how important is it for companies implementing AI to make sure they're adequately preparing their staffs?
I think it's very important. I think prompting is a language in itself. He talked about using a interview technique, STAR methodology to really shape your prompts. And the STAR methodology is describe the situation you want a large language model to respond to, tell it the tasks which it needs to follow very clearly, give it some of the activities it should do, and then finally describe how you want the results. I think it's a very structured way of learning and doing. And so it's very important for people to get trained in that model. It's both a mental model, it's also a model that the more you experiment, the more you get comfortable, and the more you can use and leverage these tools.
You also asked about build versus buy with large language models. I imagine even if someone takes an off-the-shelf model, they would need to customize it and train it. Is that the case?
So we went back and forth in this discussion around maker, shaper, and taker. Makers are where large companies are building these new large language model, whether it's Anthropic, OpenAI, Gemini from Google. These take lots of money, lots of GPUs, lots of effort. Shapers are where you're taking components of these large language models or open source models and making it contextual and building small language models for you. And that's where he was talking about the biology-related LLMs, which are much more tweaking towards the biology specifics. But as you start to take these functionality, he also talked about the practical way of using large language models, but using prompting and other techniques to make sure that it is doing what you want it to do, giving it a much more of a smaller context window, making sure that it's doing the tasks it's supposed to do rather than hallucinating across the board.
Well, I think the conversation really demystified some of the process that's necessary around all this, and it was a great conversation, and thanks as always.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks again to our sponsor, Agilicium Labs. Life Sciences DNA is a bi-monthly podcast produced by the Levine Media Group, with production support from Fullview Media. Be sure to follow us on your preferred podcast platform. Music for this podcast is provided courtesy of the Jonah Levine Collective. We'd love to hear from you. Pop us a note at danny@levinemediagroup.com. For Life Sciences DNA, I'm Daniel Levine. Thanks for joining us.